Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear us. I just wanted to make sure our microphones are working. Okay, that's great.
Yes, welcome everyone. We're just going to wait maybe a couple of minutes for people to come in. And I guess it's good morning and good afternoon in some places. So maybe we should get started. So we would like to welcome everyone to HAPS Cafecito. So this is programming from the DEI committee from HAPS, and we would like to introduce ourselves. Sheila and I are part of the subcommittee called HAPS Cafecito, and my name is Marisol Lopez, and I am a faculty member in the Department of Pharmacology, Physiology, and Biophysics at Boston University School of Medicine. And Sheila, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Sheila Vimu. I am an associate professor of biology at Waubonsee Community College, which is in Sugar Grove, Illinois. And I teach physiology, anatomy, and other subjects there.
Excellent. So we would like to welcome everyone to this offering that we are having. And one thing that we want to talk about before we even start is that this is a place of, where we should have like casual conversation and opportunity to build community and to opportunities for you to learn and reflect on your teaching practices. Sheila, would you like to talk more about what the purpose or goal of this
So the goal of this Cafecito, Marisol and I, when we were discussing this, was to make it a casual conversation, but also a place where you can share some of your own personal experiences in our teaching practices. But at the same time, we just didn't want it to be a place where people are just introducing themselves and then, after like 15, 20 minutes, we don't know where the conversation is literally going. So we wanted to scaffold it within a space where we say, here are some articles that can help us think about how can we support students' sense of belonging in the classroom, because many of us, or perhaps all of us in this room, are classroom practitioners in one sense or the other. So that is why you have some kind of a pre-read. So it was not meant to sort of scare people off, or if you didn't have a chance to just read every piece of information. It's not a journal club. So I just wanted to make sure, because we all come from this academic spaces, we think we need to have everything prepared before we launch. But this is just to make sure we have a box under which we are sort of working towards. And that is the sense of belonging for us and our students in the classroom.
Excellent. So this is our first offering of this year, and then we're planning to have 2 more cafecitos in the spring with different themes. So this one is belonging, and then we're talking about motivation and persistence in other cafecitos. So to get us started, we are going to have, can we move to the next slide, please? An icebreaker with the following prompt. Think back to a time in your life when you felt like you did not belong. Now think about your classroom. What does it remind you of in your classroom? So this today is about, student belonging, right? But we can start thinking about times when we ourselves felt like we did not belong. So we are going to split into breakout rooms of, I think, 3 to 4 people, and we're going to have about 5 minutes to discuss this, take turns, maybe start by introducing yourself, like where do you teach, and what do you teach, and then go on to talk about this, and then we will come back, and each group can, when we come back to the big group, each person, one person from each group can share, one theme of your your discussion of this icebreaker.
And also one thing we can do when we get to our breakout rooms is that one person could be like a note taker. We could assign somebody who could just take some notes so when they're sharing out, they remember what was actually part of the conversation.
Excellent. So let's get started with the breakout rooms.
So I think and in 5 minutes I'll close all the rooms. But you guys are welcome to enter and exit whichever rooms you guys want to enter and exit.
Oh, Sheila already went to a room.
Looks like she already popped out.
Oh, okay. So I will join. You will close the rooms after 5. You will put a message, right?
I'll send out a message to everyone, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Sheila, I'll have these rooms closed in a minute. So folks should start coming back any second now.
It seems that we are all back from the sessions, right?
Looks like, yes.
Yeah.
But I think one of the rooms that I jumped in, they were still having a conversation going on, and I think they must have been yanked out of it, but that's all right.
No,
Yeah, I think we were cut off from ours also. But it would be good to hear from the different breakout rooms. I don't know if we had 4 or 5, but if you had chosen a representative from your room that would like to share something that came out of your conversation, you can, I don't know, how do we do that? Just unmute or raise your hand? I don't know if I can see everyone.
I can see everyone. So maybe we can do raise our hand from, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you're referring to me, but yeah, I was with Rachel and Jennifer, and I guess we kind of talked about 2 themes. One was that sense of inferiority that you can sometimes feel when you are around people that have more experience or have what you perceive to be a deeper knowledge base than yourself in a subject. And the other sort of theme, I guess, was kind of different personality types and how they are made manifest in a classroom environment. So introverted students versus extroverts, but then also the role that prior experience with other students can have in a classroom. So if there are small cliques, like groups of athletes or groups of students that have had other classes together, how that can tend to silo classes and split people up into separate groups and not make it as cohesive.
Thank you. Do we have another report from a different group?
Where's my raise hand?
I think it is Pat. Okay.
Do you want me to go ahead, Nancy, for our group? This is Rosanna. Hello?
Yes. Hi, Rosanna.
Oh,
Go
there.
ahead.
Okay. Just want to make sure that So we kind of got off the topic for this particular question because it started off like, well, what should you do if you don't feel like you belong? But so we'll just focus on this one. So I gave my own example, and I'm going to change that a bit, Nancy and Vitaly. So instead of telling them, or I told them earlier that I teach at different colleges. One would be community college with a very diverse group of students. And then, of course, I teach at a college where I have mostly the traditional students coming from affluent neighborhoods. I guess I'm going to shift it to faculty meetings. So when I go for faculty meetings at the community college, that's the place where I feel like I belong more because I see people, from different backgrounds. I see people similar ages as mine. They're immigrants like myself. They probably have the same struggles like myself. Meanwhile, I go to another college and I attend a faculty meeting, and I still have no problem. I don't feel alienated or anything, but compared, of course, to the community college where I teach, I belong there more than the other college where we have faculty meetings. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. The different types of environments.
Yeah.
And next, Sheila, who do we have next? Is it Pat?
Pat, yes.
Similar things. People feeling like they're behind the others or not grasping things as quickly. It's kind of intimidating. And then, not knowing people, not being comfortable or being the introvert, trying to join a group, not feeling like you fit in or not knowing who to seek out when you have group work to do. That sense of not knowing what's expected sometimes, all the kind of the standard things.
I like what Pat was saying because this is what I was in a group, but I couldn't finish, and I was sharing about how it felt like I didn't belong when I was watching my son in his hockey games and, with the hockey parents and everything. And I come from a different culture where sports were not that big or anything. And it's the culture, right? Like you are not used to that. And it feels kind of like you're out of place. Mm-hmm. So we're still missing a group or two.
No, there were 3 groups, right?
Dulce, are you going to speak up for our group? No, I was in a group, but they didn't speak yet, I don't think.
I see Dulce's.
Who was the representative from our group? I think it was group 4. Is that you, Brenda?
We did not decide on one. It was Sophia, Dulce, and I. I don't know if either are comfortable to speak. Otherwise, I'm happy to. We had 3 great examples of feeling not like, of feeling, these are my words, isolated within a group, perhaps, or othered in some way. Both of Sophia and Dulce are experienced educators in their institutions. But we talked about how we had felt at different points, different from or othered or received a horrible comment being the only Latina in a neighborhood, for example. So those experiences certainly shape how we communicate collectively to our students. So a great example that was given was when students, in A&P, which is a very, 1 or 2 very difficult content-heavy course, to reassure students, especially if they have not done well after their first exam, that they got into this university, they did well, and that they can do it, reflecting on how it feels as the instructor to not feel included, and then to share, it kind of extend that compassion to the students who might be feeling the same way, even if other students aren't saying so.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that not positive reinforcement, but it has how do you call it when you are, like before an exam? I tell my students also, you got here, that you have gone through a long way to get here, and you should be, you were going to do well. So just think about all your strengths. Excellent. So is there any other group that didn't share? Otherwise, we are going to go into our main, topic of today's discussion. Do you see any other hands, Sheila?
No, I don't. I think everybody's good. Nobody's
Okay.
raised.
So Sheila, do you want to introduce the next part? Shall we move to the next slide?
Yes, we should. So the next slide is typically based on the pre-read that we had and sort of lends itself into what are the topics that we would consider about students' sense of belonging. So if you just glanced over the paper, that's great. If you just looked at the abstract, that should be good enough. Okay, so the idea was not for you to thoroughly read it and take notes, but looking at the paper and then doing some reflections based on what the paper suggested. We have questions here that we will have for each breakout room. And as you go into your breakout room, there'll be a question for you to discuss. And Will is going to share the file on the chat. So please take a look and see if you're able to open that up. We'll give you 30 seconds so you can open that up.
So yeah, the file is there so people can download it so you have the guiding questions.
Yes.
But don't feel like you have to, do all of them or anything. It's just a guide to your conversation.
And don't feel like let's say you go to the question number 1 and you ran through it really quickly, jump on to the next one. Or if you went through the question 1, you were sticking at it, talking about it, delving a little bit further, that's totally okay too. So this is just for us to sort of take that paper and reflect on what are we doing in our classrooms to improve the sense of belonging for our students. And perhaps we can connect our sense of belonging to the student's sense of belonging. And the paper is sort of thinking also about self-efficacy, about the beliefs that students have about their skill and capacity building. How does that transfer to us as instructors? And also for us to see what is the perception of student warmth, an instructor warmth and a sense of belonging. How do we open up ourselves in our classroom based on our personality? Everybody may not be the same extrovert who can do some things, but we all, as Brenda said, compassionate human beings who are taking instruction as our leading goal. So those would be the things that we would end up with, and we'll have 15 minutes, Marisol, is that right? So that'll be...
Yeah, we will, I think 10 to 15 minutes, 15 minutes probably. And then when we come back, people again can share things that were discussed, main themes. So we should be getting into the same breakout rooms that we were before.
And we'll be jumping from breakout to the breakout room. Please let us know if there's any clarification or you need some help.
And enjoy your conversations.
Yes.
Okay, so I think everyone must have come back. Sheila, did you want to, so this is the time now to, share something that your group talked about, that's something that you would like, to share with others. Sheila, are you
Yes,
checking?
I'm ready.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
I had the opportunity to jump from room to room just to make sure that everybody had somebody who was going to report out. And the conversations were so diverse and interesting. Everybody was thinking about spaces in which they can contribute. So maybe we can start with the first. I don't know. There's no room A, room B, room C. So whoever would like to be the first one to report out from their rooms, raise your hand, your Zoom hand, and we can go from there. Or you can just jump in and start. Jennifer, you ready?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so a couple of things that we were talking about when classes start or you're at the beginning of your course, making some communication norms. So getting into small groups and thinking about, the students talking with each other about what kinds of norms they want for communication in their classroom, and then reporting some of those out and making a list of these are the types of things we want our classroom to be, allows for a sense of belonging. You contributed to what your class is going to be like. We also talked about the wide range of numbers of students in classes. So some of us had smaller and some of them were very large. So one thing that we talked about was you can start creating that sense of community in your smaller spaces, like when you're in a laboratory setting, that hopefully can extend out to bigger, larger lectures for students. Talking about some of the space and physical things, we talked about the physical environment can kind of inhibit a sense of community. If you're in a theater, stadium seating environment, it is hard to move around and get into groups and talk to each other. And people come in and they have their own little territory or place that they have reserved, and that's their little spot. So the physical environment plays a big role in what we're able to do. And then the other thing that I thought was really good was just having some sense of consistency throughout the classroom. Probably the first time students go through a quiz or an exam or some group work in the class, it might be very nerve-wracking, but knowing what's coming up, like having some kind of consistent way to move through things, can give a sense of calmness maybe, as well as, okay, I'm part of this. I know what's coming next. I'm in the know, and bring people together. So those are some of the things that our group was talking about.
Very nice. Thank you. So we could go to the next room. Who would like to report out? Jennifer, go ahead.
I don't know if we were the next room or not, but I know you stopped by, so I'll chime in for our group. We talked about a number of these different topics as well, and one of the first things that came up was essentially how could we actually measure a sense of belonging in our classrooms, and kind of having a discussion about that. And so, some people were talking about just like maybe we have an idea based on what we're doing, or how we're, kind of sharing information about ourselves with the students to make them feel a little bit more comfortable, with us in our classroom environments. But do our students actually feel like they belong? And so that's actually something that we're interested in maybe looking into for ourselves, is like, what could we do, that would potentially, get feedback on how the students feel about that in our class. I know our course evaluations at our schools don't ask any of those types of questions, so is there some type of additional survey, obviously with IRB approval, that we could, check in with our students just to see how they feel about that, or how they feel how, welcoming and belonging in our courses. And so that was something we talked about, as well as the physical environment in the textbooks materials. It sounds like we're pretty cognizant of the textbooks that we select, as well as the materials we select to, try to ensure that they present a range of models and backgrounds in their figures to represent all the students in our classrooms. So being just aware and cognizant of the materials that you choose to present, we think is important. And then I think we ended with some information, or like talking about the physical environments as well. I teach in a classroom space where I get small modular tables. And so I find I'm able to do a lot of group discussions, and that's actually how my classes are structured with the flipped classroom setting. And so we do a lot of problem solving. They get to work with groups for the majority of the class period, or at least half of it with interspersed lectures. And I find that that's really helpful. Moving into larger scale lecture halls, that is a lot harder to do. Or to even get buy-in from the classroom if there's less accountability because no one's, the structure of the room makes it harder for conversations. And so that was just something else that we talked about. I don't know if anyone else from my group wants to add in. We talked about a lot of things, but a couple highlights there.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We could move on to the next one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. All right, so a lot of the things that were mentioned, we also covered in our group, but I'm just going to touch on some things that we maybe have not been mentioned. So for the first question, we talked about that in order for students to feel a sense of belonging on the first day, it's very important to have group activities, create a learning environment, and strongly focusing on that communication is key. So allowing students to express themselves and openly listening. Then we talked about different group activities that are done throughout the semester. And Rosanna had a good point that, I don't do, and I don't think I've ever, I've probably heard about it before, but it's not something that, was brought to my attention. But she, with every lab session that is met, she specifically gives each student a new lab partner. So throughout the semester, everyone gets to meet another person in their class. So as she said, she's in week 8. So one student has already met 8 new friends or 8 new classmates. So I thought that was a great idea and something that I definitely plan to implement in some of the classrooms where lecture and lab are separated. And then we mentioned, I teach at a university where lab and lecture are together. So we teach in the classroom where all the models and syndavers are. So I've also noticed a difference in the learning environment in this type of, classrooms. So I feel that the students are more active and wanting to teach each other if anyone didn't understand a specific anatomy model or, depending on the subject that we're in. So those were some things that we covered that were a little bit different from what was said.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
I think we're in the last group.
No, group 4. Is anyone who is going to share from group 4, our group?
Brenda, Dulce,
or Sophia?
Sophia.
I was going to welcome Sophia or Dulce to speak.
I feel like I spoke a lot in our group, but I'll go ahead and speak. I brought up the question about physical environment and textbook materials, mostly like just materials in general. I noticed a lot of inequity in time use with materials, and some of the students at my school are very wealthy, and their parents buy them like the muscle models and the skeletons, so they have access to those at home. But our school is located in a very low SES neighborhood where I grew up. And so we also have those students too. And I feel like it's not fair. So I try to donate models to our student support services that support students that are low income or first gen when I can donate models over there. But also we all mentioned that, using online resources is a way to kind of level that playing field as well. Taking pictures of the models, and Dulce mentioned that she holds her office hours, like 3 hours a week in the lab to hold open lab for students to have more time with them. And we mostly spent a lot of our time talking about that. Even, I noticed in my classroom, the teaching assistants were very big Greek school. And so if they had their friends that were in the lab, they would spend more time with them. And I would have to call that out and bring it to the attention of my colleagues and say, I'm noticing that our TAs are spending more time helping their friends during lab. They need to, we need to make sure that we're all telling them to rotate around. Or students taking models away from our students of color and being like, oh, I'm going to use that now. No, they just started using that. It's their turn with that model. So those kinds of things. Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that. And then we moved on to the role model representation in the academic disciplines, and just talked about our experiences being, either the only or very few. We happen to be Latina in our group, Latina at our universities, in our departments teaching our course, and on our experiences with that.
Thank you. We had such a wide range of information covered from all of these group sessions, and it sort of brings us back to the original question we had. In order to build motivation and belonging in the classroom in some form or the other, there's no one size fits all, right? So the context really matters, because we can see there are spaces where there are TAs in the classroom, there are community colleges where the instructor does it all. There are places where students are in large lecture halls. There are small classrooms. So in some ways, I think this is an art of some kind that we all get good at as we start building and working at it through some like-minded conversations. And that's why the HAPS Cafecito is a space for us, where we come back and we bring back our conversations, get some feedback from like-minded colleagues, and then we get back into our classrooms again and become those instructors that we really want to be all the time. So thank you so much. We are right on time. We wanted to give everybody a couple of minutes back, because being in a Zoom room where you finish one meeting and the next meeting starts 30 seconds before you finish this one, right? So I think this is what we wanted to do, but I also wanted to give it back to Marisol to say the last few words, and thank you so much for having such a wonderful conversation. Marisol, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, I really enjoyed my time in my breakout room, and I feel like my level of anxiety and stress, just lowered just by being here with all of you, talking about things that are really important to us and to help our students. So I'm really glad that everyone took the time to come here, and I hope to see you in our next Cafecito session. And other than that, have a great rest of your day, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.